What's going on, guys? So this is going to be my final video on my Powera Spectra, my little Powera Spectra series that I've been doing. I have to say, when I did my reveal on this controller, I did not expect to get so many views. So I'm gonna do one more video, which is basically about my experience using this controller for the long term. And yeah, let's get to it. So right off the bat, one thing I kind of noticed after using this controller for for 10 months is the left thumbstick. There's pretty much no more tension. It's definitely a lot looser compared to the video that I did when I first reviewed it after using it for a month. But it still feels really good. It kind of feels like an Xbox, like a stock Xbox One controller that's been decently used. And this left thumbstick, what is it? As you can tell, it's when I kind of snap it back, it doesn't really center properly. But luckily, there's no there's no impact on the game. But I do feel in the real long-term use, maybe this thumbstick might end up getting a little bit of stick drift, but I kind of don't really mind it. This is generally for my movement stuff. So on my right thumbstick, there's actually still a lot of tension left. Yeah, there's definitely more resistance to it. So that's how my thumbsticks are in 10 months. And yeah, you could totally see some of the gunk here. The left thumbstick gets a lot of this, a lot more than my right thumbstick. And I do kind of clean it up at times, but yeah, I just haven't been in the mood for cleaning up for this one. But other than that, everything else is still pretty much... Oh, wait, I forgot the X button. As you could tell here, the X button, the paint job is starting to kind of lose. It's starting to deteriorate for some reason. And it's funny because I actually pressed the Y button a lot more intensely and a lot more than my X button. So I think it's probably the X button didn't really have the best paint job compared to the other buttons. But yeah, my Y button is really important when I play the modern Doom games. There's a lot of quick switching, there's a lot of weapon wielding, so I pretty much abuse this button a lot when I play the modern Doom games. But other than that, everything else has been pretty much fine. The bumpers are still good. The left bumper is a lot more I guess it's not as spongy as the right bumper. But then again, I use this bumper a lot in the games that I've been playing. Especially, I've been playing Rage 2, and yeah, this button definitely gets used a lot in that game. But everything else has been pretty much fine as far as functionality goes. I could just touch my D-pad ever so slightly, it'll register. Same thing with the buttons, same thing with the thumbsticks. Just click it really gently and it'll register without any problems. Now, I did encounter a real problem around the 5-month mark of this controller. Basically, when I was playing, sometimes the left, when I would hold the left trigger, it would sometimes kind of activate my right trigger randomly. And at around the 5-month mark, it didn't happen too often, but the more I played with this controller, the more it did start to get worse. And I thought I would have to kind of replace the controller, but I kind of played around with it, just trying to see if there's some sort of tinkering thing I could do, and I actually did find a way to kind of fix that issue. So basically, every time I play my Xbox, I would always have to do a little calibration with my Powera Spectra. Basically, I would kind of hold this trigger, and then I'll do my thumbsticks like this. Both of these thumbsticks, by the way, I would kind of move them in their circular location, because around the 7th month mark, I kind of found out sometimes the right thumbstick, when I'm aiming with the right thumbstick, it would also kind of make my right trigger go off, or my left trigger for some weird reason. So yeah, that's kind of the problem that I encounter with this controller. It's just kind of my triggers are acting a little bit funky at times. But yeah, eventually I found a little calibration process where I just kind of hold either triggers, and then I just move both of these thumbsticks multiple times, and then I go to the next trigger, and I just keep on doing that for probably around 3 minutes at max, 30 seconds at like least or even less than that. And I used the game controller app on my Xbox to kind of like do this little process, and I just basically do it until like the trigger issue is completely resolved. And once it's resolved, I'm pretty much good to go and start gaming. Now, the question is, like, why does it do it? I have no idea why. I did do, like, the little calibration process when I first got this controller, so I don't know. And I remember, like, the calibration process did kind of, like, require me to do the same thing. I had to kind of, like, move both of my thumbsticks, like, in a circular location. Same thing with, like, the triggers. I remember I had to, like, hold down the triggers and all that stuff. And yeah, so that's really the only issue that I really encountered with this controller after using it for 10 months. The triggers started to act a little bit funky, but luckily, you know, there was a workaround, and it mostly works most of the time. Like, sometimes I do kind of have to like go through the calibration process a lot longer, and sometimes even like after that, my triggers will still kind of act a little bit funky at times. But then there are moments where, like, the moment I do my little calibration process and I start gaming for like long hours, I would not have any issues with the triggers at all. But yeah, you know, that's pretty much like my experience with the Powera Spectra for 10 months. And 10 months later, do I still recommend this controller after compared to like the first time I reviewed it after using it for only 1 month? And the answer is yes. I still think this is a great controller. You know, for $40, it's very affordable, and like I said, it's kind of like a pro controller. In my first video of this controller, like the trigger stops and the back buttons, they're very nice. I've also started using like more of the trigger stops in like Call of Duty and Halo. I really love the second way or halfway trigger stops. I think that's really helpful in those games, and my opinion has not changed. I do think this is still like one of the best controllers that you could get for like, you know, only $40. That has like some pro controller features, and it's just really nice. Luckily, I mean, hopefully, you know, if you get this controller, you don't bump into like the trigger issues. I don't know how often the trigger issues are for this controller, but it is kind of annoying that I had some issues with this controller in the 5-month mark. And what is it? Eventually, it kind of got worse. And I almost forgot. I remember like the left stick. Like recently, my left stick would kind of squeak a little bit, but now it doesn't squeak anymore. And there was a time where my left stick was kind of like sticking. Like sometimes I'll just kind of like move around my character, and then it'll kind of like stick like that. But now that's completely gone. I'm not really sure why. I mean, why was that the case? But yeah. Ever since, like, you know, those minor issues were gone, there hasn't been any like any real issues other than like my trigger issues and that whole calibration process that I pretty much have to do every time I use this controller when I play Xbox or I play on PC. But yeah, that's pretty much it for like my long-term Powera Spectra experience. I totally recommend it. I mean, I totally recommend, you know, people to try this controller out if, you know, you're interested in it, or if you're wondering what it's like to use this controller for, like, the long term. Well, now you know what it's like. And, yeah, thank you for watching this video. I actually do have, like, another tech video related that I'm going to do eventually. It's gonna be on, like, a headphone that I've been using for, like, many months now. And yeah, I think like after using this particular headphone for many months, I think it's time for me to talk about it. So, you know, if you guys are interested in like my occasional tech videos, you know, check that one out if you're interested. With that said, thank you for watching.